Welcome back, E3 Pipe Dreams Podcast. Once again, we're back in Chuckwalla, in the Ocho, in the garage, hanging out here. Corey Alexander, as always, my longtime buddy, hanging out. Mascot running around, Fezaroo. We got him locked in today. And we've got a great guest. I'm super excited about this one. Arguably, probably sensation.
Kayla
Yaakov.
Welcome to Pipe Dreams. Thanks for coming by the Ocho.
Thank you.
We love
you
it.
keep talking my head up. It just makes me sit here. I'm like, man.
No, it's a big deal. I mean, we both were doing some research and learned some things that we didn't even know. And you're only 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's kind of crazy because we were like, we've had some friends of ours. We had Joe Roberts, the first one, and Johnny Lewis, who's he's definitely getting old. And then we were like, how are we gonna go back to talking to somebody a little bit younger? We had to think about keeping it PG.
Well, because I've never talked with you personally, and then I had 20 minutes with you, and I was talking to JP and Corey, and I'm like, man, this girl's polished. Like, it was really easy to talk with you, and I was like, man, I don't think I was that polished at 15. I think I was a little wild child.
You going on the Today Show at 15?
No chance, man. I'd be just deer in headlights like that intro, so.
Yeah. So tell us about that. You just did the Today Show, which is a pretty big deal for you, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Kind of how it came about. It was, the MotoAmerica guys wanted me to do some stuff for them, and it kind of all just came together. Not only did I want to promote racing, but I kind of wanted to promote my side of it, and I thought my story last year was really cool, and the Today Show kind of came into that. We had a few other things come up in the middle of the season, I should say, but those didn't really go through, and I'm glad we got something like the Today Show, and they really heard me, and they were able to make something that I was actually really happy with.
How does that work in terms of I assume you don't have a publicist or something like that. Or they call your dad and be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
you want her on the show?" Or?
Well, yeah. So I don't even have a manager or anything yet. So it's like basically I've been working. Everything's been going through MotoAmerica, and they've been just throwing things at myself and my dad, and we've just kind of been going off of that. Even with sponsors and opportunities like that, it's all been through my dad. So
That's really cool. What they came out to Jennings. That's where you were riding.
Yeah, they came out to Jennings. It was a little bit different than kind of a lot of people expect to go for that first racetrack. And I think it was cool, though, because you kind of get to see an aspect of it that not a lot of people will see at a regular racetrack, maybe. And just, obviously it was a track day. So, you have different elements of it there, too. But I think it was good for Jennings as well, because I love that track. I go there all the time. And to ride the R6, I mean, it was good, and to just, especially, I guess, publicity-wise.
Yeah, because I think Jennings is like a true racetrack. It's been around for so long. It's kind of got some history. A lot of big teams have been there. A lot of, racers that, come through the ranks have been there. And I feel like it's one of those starting points.
I just rode a bike.
I was going to bring it up last time we were at Jennings. Richie wasn't happy with that one.
Where was that at? You gotta tell me about that one now. You can't just leave me hanging on that.
Well, so we were there it was when we used to race Daytona, just at Super Sport. When Super Sport was, they had two different classes back when we were long
East
time
and
ago.
West.
That was 10 years ago.
Back in my day. Back in my day.
Yeah.
I know,
Back when we were about your age, we were racing in Super Sport, and we would do a test before we went to Daytona. So this was probably late February.
Yeah.
So around the same time, which is pretty chilly down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did the whole day. Everything was pretty good. We were all happy. And then at the end, they were like, let's go do some practice starts. So we were on the front straightaway. We were doing practice starts, and then we'd do a lap and then come back, stop, and do it again. Well, it must have been, I think it was literally the last one.
Hold on, you're missing a point. So what happened is when you go through the kink and you kind of get a little bit out of sight.
Yeah.
We were goofing off a little bit. So,
goofing off
a little bit.
I really wasn't.
Okay, all right.
Well, so anyway, we did our last round of starts, and I went through and I tipped it into the kink, and I just lost the front.
Oh,
and the bike just
fast.
slid forever.
Which one?
The first, I think it was the first right.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing's
Yeah.
left, and then you just
That's
go in.
so fast.
And I'm a deer in headlights. I'm like, And I wasn't even like, man, I didn't even, you know what was so bad is I didn't even think about, hey, is Corey okay? I just rolled back and I was like, man, we're going to get in so much trouble.
Yeah, you probably don't realize. So that's my Uncle Richie back there. And so he was the one that I had to deal with when I got back to the truck. So.
That probably wasn't a great conversation when you first got back.
Not when it was the second day of testing and we were like loading up to go to
2 Daytona, brand new bikes, brand new paint. We had like this really cool tanks that had like silver and black stars all over them that were like not cheap to paint. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah. So sounds like your time at Jennings was a little bit better than our last time.
Yeah,
there.
I don't think I've ever actually crashed there, which is like surprising because I've been going there for a while, and that was one of the first tracks I went to when I started, I think. Which was technically I shouldn't have been going there, but that kind of happened with every track that I went to when I first started out on the bigger bikes. But
just because you were too young.
Yeah.
When did you start riding the bigger bikes?
So Weir let me race at 9, and which wasn't supposed to be a thing on the big bikes, but it happened. So I became.
When you say big bikes, what do you?
Big bikes for
like
me. Yeah, when I was little. So my first big bike race was on I think it was either NSF 250 or Milwaukee 250, one or the other.
Okay.
And I was doing that because I did have a Metrokit 125, but that thing was just
it
blew
crazy.
up.
I rode one of those. I went to that like Cup pre
Red Bull Rookie Cup
Yeah.
trial.
No. This is Metrokit. Like this is pre the Red Bull Rookie Cup.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's saying some age now
That's
for me.
what they had us do at the Red Bull Rookie Cup trial.
Yeah.
Because
And those
Metrokit's
things
crazy.
I did the first one in Spain, and I remember rolling up, and I was a dirt tracker, so I had no shot. These kids are like running around, like on a track day before we show up, and I remember rolling out, trying to learn Valencia of all places. Yeah, I didn't make it through the first cut.
You could probably talk about that a little bit. So you did 2 years in the European Cup over there, or was it just last year?
Yeah, just 1 year. So it was like basically I did it was the Blue Crew European R3 Cup, and so it ran alongside World Superbike. And so in 2021, which would be my first year professionally racing, I got into it at 13, just coming off of club racing, never done anything professional. So it was just kind of a big eye-opening experience. And, we did that. I think the whole season was like 5 or 6 rounds. We did every one except for one race at the end, which it was between either I would race Barber or Catalunya, and I picked Barber, and which I was pretty happy with because I got my first podium there. But I did that, and then this past season, I did one super finale race at Portimao.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and that's where you got second in race 2.
Yep, podium.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and like third overall in like their little championship thing that they did.
Was it like a 2-race deal, or
Yeah, it was 2 race. So like
a moto style kind of deal?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, it was cool because the thing was when we did Blue Crew, you get one free practice, it's 30 minutes, Super Pole 30 minutes, and 2 races. That's the only track time you have.
Wow.
So no warm-ups or anything, which is kind of crazy going back to some of my other races, but that weekend it was really cool to kind of see my progression from one year to the next, because within my first free practice session, I was 8th, and I was super, super happy about that because I'd never been to Portimao, and I hadn't been on R3 in over a year, and just, it was so cool.
That track's wild.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Like it's got kind of the jump, but not really. Like
Yeah.
the big roller coaster, I guess. Down.
See, on the R3, you can't really feel it, but
Yeah.
it was cool, just awesome. I remember walking the track because we came a day or two early and walked it before everyone arrived, and it was wild.
What's it like? Because you're 14 then?
For Super Finale?
When you
I was 15 then.
Oh,
That was
okay.
only in October.
Okay, so now what's it like racing in a World Superbike paddock and in front of all those fans? And
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember when I did my first race at Misano in early 2021, I was super nervous because that was my first ever professional race, and I'm in front of the World Superbike paddock. Not just something like MotoAmerica, which is already big, but I'm in front of guys that, Top Rack and Jonathan Ray, all these guys that, I've always looked up to. And just crazy just absolutely insane. The butterflies sitting on grid, it was just absolutely insane. And not to say I didn't really feel that in Portimao, but it was a lot less. Like I had a different goal in mind, which kind of helped me.
What kind of goal was that?
Well, with my first year, I didn't really. You kind of set an expectation for yourself, even if it's a little bit naive, coming off of club racing. But I feel like when I was going out the first time, it was more of like I wanted to finish well for myself. Like I set a goal for myself, but on the outside, I was like, yeah, I want to do well. But it kind of put me down a little bit because I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to. But when I went to Portimao this last time, I knew kind of where I would stand. I wanted a top 10, and I knew that could possibly be possible. And we did better than that, and I was really happy about it.
That's got to be insane though. Like going from there, like feeling the butterflies in your first race, and then coming, but getting on the podium. I mean, there's a picture behind us, and to see run through those. Where all the fans are going to the podium. I mean, that's got to be insane. And I know like Gerloff was there. And to be honest, what's crazy is I thought you were wearing Gerloff's leathers for a second because it was the 31 and it was Alpine Star. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, when did she get an Alpine Star deal?
The thing was, that was from the year prior. I got an Alpine Star deal with the team I was with before. When I was doing Blue Crew in 2021. So, but for the super finale, they were supposed to give us these suits, whatever suit that was supposed to sponsor the series or whatever. And so I got there, and I'm looking at the suit. I'm like, that's not gonna fit me. That's not gonna fit me. And so I get into it. Like the legs are super long. One leg's bigger than the other. And my arms all the way up to like my freaking elbows. And so I go over to like the dude that like runs the whole thing. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wear that. Like, I was so glad I brought my second suit. And he was like, get the glove and try again. I'm like, the glove's not going to make a difference. This thing is like up my arm. And so, yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, I ended up running the Alpine Stars leathers there. And I mean, it worked well. It was good that we brought that because if I didn't bring that, then I wouldn't have had anything.
So talking about that in that paddock, and you were saying that, talking with like Top Rack, I heard you talking earlier about how you said he was cool.
Oh, he's awesome.
Tell us about that. And do you have a relationship with him still, or do you still keep in contact by any chance, or does he
like a little bit here and there? But like it was awesome. Like so in my first race in Misano, I like I said came off of club racing, so I'm not really familiar with anything, and I had only been on the R3 once before, and it kind of making that transition, especially going into like a world championship series.
It's insane. Going from like Wira to a world championship. It's insane.
The craziest thing was like the kids who had won the Blue Crew Cup that I was in, like some of them went on to podium. Like one of the kids that I raced against podiumed at Portimao the same weekend I did. So it was really insane. So to go from, say, a world championship rider, podium finisher now, and for me, just doing Wira races, it was just a crazy transition. So I was struggling a lot in kind of just the way I was riding the bike. I wasn't riding it hard enough. And so Top Rack, he's just so cool, super down to earth. And he'd come over to the Blue Crew paddock. We had like this little, they call it the village, like our little pit area. And he'd come around often and, say hi to people, blah, 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 blah. But I was pitted next to another Turkish rider. So he was talking to him, and then he came over to me and started telling me, hey, I'm seeing this. Maybe if you're braking. He told me, he's like, your braking is really good. And I was just like, oh, my God. Top Rack just told me my braking is really good.
Top Rack.
But, yeah, he told me that, and then he was just telling me what I needed to do better. So I was just taking it all in, and it was just super crazy. And we'd follow up because, like I said, each race was with World Superbike, and I talked to him pretty much every weekend. We were able to go into the Yamaha hospitality, during lunch and things like that, and I talked to him in there, and it was so cool. Like, to see how nice the guy was, especially considering, he's a world champion. It was crazy. And, so I come back to Portimao, and I'm just going through the pits. I think it was after our free practice session, and he's riding through on whatever Yamaha trike thing that he had in the
Wheeling
pit.
it probably.
Yeah. And he comes up and he saw me and he like recognized me and he came up to me and he was like, you've been doing really good. I've been watching MotoAmerica, like MotoAmerica
That's
Junior
so
Cup. He's like,
cool.
to see that improvement is so awesome. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my God. Like Toprak was like watching MotoAmerica, and it was really cool to hear him, like especially coming from him, say that he saw that improvement and he was like happy for me seeing that. And it was just awesome experience.
That's
Really
insane.
cool.
That's insane, especially the king of breaks, saying that you break well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I heard you saying that's like one of the things that you feel like you're really strong at.
Yeah.
Where does that come from, you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure at all. Like, it's the same with the rain. Like, a lot of people ask me that too. Like, oh, why do you think you're good in the wet? I don't know. Maybe it's just feel the way I ride, but I'm just really confident with my front end, and I feel like I have a good idea of what my limit is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's kind of crazy. Like last year, I would say, I mean, you were definitely the latest breaker in the Junior Cup. Like
Yeah, for sure.
by far. Like I don't see anybody that matched up to you. If it was side by side, you like every time. Like I think you had their number with that the whole time. That's kind of crazy. When you think about like your like come up and how it's just, I don't know how to say it.
Did you like want to be good at breaking? Was that something you had to like work on and like they really focused on, or is that just something that?
Not really.
No?
I think a lot of it it could have came from the fact that when I was racing in Wira, I would always race against bigger bikes. So maybe it was part of me just trying to make up time because my bike wasn't fast in a straight line. I needed to be fast in the corners. So that could be part of it, but I feel like a lot of the other kids did the same thing. They kind of grew up in the same way, either doing Wira or CCS. Racing with bigger bikes, but that could be part of it. I always enjoyed it. I always thought it was fun. Like that was always my favorite part of racing was braking and being late on the brakes, especially now too, being on the R7. It's super fun.
Do you think that translates on the R7, or even now that you jumped on an R6, can you still, because it's a bigger bike, being 15 and, being a younger person trying to ride that. I remember when I got on one at 14 at Freddie Spencer School, I noticed the weight.
Yeah.
And so is that something you're still, like, do you feel it or do you like the bigger bike already?
Oh, I love the bigger bike.
Okay.
I love
That's
it. I mean,
awesome.
like, obviously it feels a lot heavier and feels a lot different in many ways, but like, especially coming off the 400, and I never want to go back. I mean, like, just the bike feels like an actual motorcycle, like, and you're able to ride the thing and slide it around and have that power to get you out of the corners and, do things that you need to do. And then you can just have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Really with the 400, you can ride it around, but it's not really that fun. But if I want to have like a fun time and I'm just at Jennings spinning laps, I can just come out and get sideways on the R6 and know my limit on the R6 is, how sideways I can get. And just, even stopping the bigger bikes is really fun because it takes more effort. And I kind of like that. I like that it takes more effort and it makes it more fun, especially once you start to get faster and see results come. It just makes everything better.
What when you were like, you went from Wira here, obviously, which, I know Wira now is not as competitive as it was even when we were younger, and it was really competitive prior to that. But when you went over to Europe, what was the biggest thing you took away, like riding around those guys? I know, like talking with Joe, the biggest thing is aggression, right? Do you think like that's kind of played a role in how aggressive you are as well? Like coming back here and watching you, I think like one of the most aggressive people in the class. So it's like fun to watch, but it seems like a little bit of that European edge of where you come back and you have that. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think, like I said, for me, I've always kind of been in that. So I've had to make those passes even in spots. And I think when I was little, not to say I'm not small now, but when I was, riding mini bikes and I was never good at passing. And especially when I used to race in New Jersey, I was just never good. The funniest thing is I used to race with a lot of the kids I'm riding with now, like Joe, Gus, Ben, Spencer, like I can name a bunch, Maz, Brandon, like all these guys I kind of grew up with in some sort. And then I just was never really good at New Jersey, and I felt like I wasn't really given a bunch of opportunity. And then Josh Heron we heard about the Heron compound, and we came down to the Heron compound and started riding there, and Josh helped me a lot. And, I met Blake Davis there, and just I was able to really elevate my riding. And I was riding with people like Ashton Yates too, and they were all really fast on 150s, so I got a 150, started racing with them, and I learned I had to be aggressive. And with riding with Josh, who's, obviously one of the most aggressive people in MotoAmerica, we were bumping and hitting every race, and it kind of just showed me that I needed to do that. And once I got into bigger bikes, it maybe leveled out a little bit, because obviously once you're on a little bike, you don't really care as much, but once you're going faster, it kind of plays a little bit of a part. But I think definitely going to Europe, there were a few things that were different. And the way they ride, it's not so much like in the race, it's much different than I was used to. But it was like practices and qualifying. It was just so cutthroat, and you had to be there at all times. And you had to get up to speed so quick. And that was like, I couldn't wrap my head around a lot of the things that they were doing when I was over there for that first year. Like 2021 for me, I feel like was just like I was I was absorbing all this information, but at the same time I wasn't really taking it. It was just kind of, sitting on me. And I felt like that off season going into 2022, I was able to really absorb it, and I was able to understand what was going on and understand what these fast guys were actually doing. And so that played a huge part, I think, in a lot of the things that I did this year and how I was riding, and obviously aggression-wise.
No, that's totally understandable. I remember my first race in BSB, or when I did that wildcard in Mode 2, and it was FP1 was so cutthroat. I was like, are you kidding me? It's like 40 degrees out, and like they're half second off the lap record, or it's like half wet and whatnot. Now, you say that you've raced with all the kids that you're racing against now, and you grew up with them, so you're kind of, in that group. Now, when did you go to Europe, did you notice that, did they race you any different? Like, because you were female, or?
Not really. Because I feel like it's almost more normal there than it is here. I think in some ways they don't like being beat. They don't like being beat. Like, the guys here don't like being beat either, but they really don't like it. I mean, I remember our first year, there was like the few rounds towards the end of the season that I really started to kind of pick up a few more things, not necessarily pick up all of it, but I was able to start to get faster and faster and move up the field a little bit more. It was like I could see they were starting to get a little bit more aggressive and, whatever. But yeah, besides that, I think it was all right.
Okay, because I mean, we raced Elena. I've raced Shayna Texter my whole life, so I mean, I don't race them any different.
No.
And I was just interested. Well, I mean, like, you don't like when you grow up with Shayna or racing Elena, it's like.
And you hear, I mean, Gus did a podcast with Sean and Paul, with MotoAmerica, and he said the same thing. You don't race anyone any differently, and he was like, she's probably the most aggressive, and you kind of have to match that. So no matter what, you're gonna have aggressive people, and I see everyone else the same. And they probably see me the same. So yeah, that's just kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting because, I mean, like, watching you ride, if you didn't know you were a girl, like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but typically, like, girls seem to, in the past, when you watch some of the other girls that have come through, they tend to be a little bit less aggressive in certain instances. I don't know if it's just, because of the intimidation factor or whatever the case is. I don't know what would cause that, but for you, like, you're more aggressive than the guys. So it's like, it makes it fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, I don't want to say like an underdog in a way, but like, I feel like that also helps because everyone's kind of behind you. Like, we want you to beat the boys,
Yeah. No, it's cool. And I've been super fortunate, and I'm like, obviously it comes with a lot of hard work, and especially this off season, I've really been working at it, and I really want to do well. But obviously it's about being there and just staying in it till the end.
I think I read somewhere that you started with flat track?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, because Pennsylvania is a pretty hot spot for
It's
flat
a,
track.
it's a pretty big hot spot.
You know, there's a lot of good guys. How long did you race flat? Do you think that has any help in where you developed your skills from at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a lot of good racers, and they a lot of them started in flat track, and you know, even Tyler Scott. Like, I grew up racing with him. He did both. I met him. He was probably the first road racer that I met, and at the time he was doing primarily flat track, and so like we raced together a lot. He was always kind of in maybe one or more classes higher than me, just because of our age, but. Yeah, like I didn't get too far in it. I probably the highest I raced like CC wise was like 65s, 85s, something like that. But I kind of stopped that at around, I'd probably say 8, and started really focusing on road racing. And because at that point I was doing motocross, road racing, and flat track.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm going backwards here, but I read also somewhere that you did the Anaheim KTM. Like,
KTM
that's insane.
junior thing. Yeah.
How was that? Like,
That
'cause
was cool.
that must have been your first time in front of in a stadium with.
Yeah, big audience. It was crazy. I mean, like, it kind of all came about in a weird way. Like, I don't remember exactly like the details, but I remember like during Christmas, like my dad telling me, "Hey, we're gonna like do this." So it was kind of like a Christmas present.
That's insane.
And at the time, like, we weren't fully focused on motocross, but it was like, okay, we're gonna, try to get this and do well with it. And that weekend, it snowed really bad in Pennsylvania. So my dad plows snow, and it was a big blizzard, and huge snowstorm. He had to stay home, and I had to go with my mom. And my mom doesn't know much about racing at all. So it was kind of like this weird dynamic where it was like you didn't really know what to do. I just wanted to go out there and have fun. And luckily, like the KTM with that deal, it was like they gave you all the gear, everything you needed. If you needed something, you can ask someone. And it was crazy because they tell you, they're like, you can't jump some of these things, you can't double these things, you just have to single them. And then we skipped the whoop section, and like, so at that point I was just kind of like, I was nervous and scared about a lot of stuff because I didn't want them to get mad at me. So I wasn't like over jumping things or whatever, but it was a cool experience. Like, I think I got like 8th or 7th
Really?
or 8th. Yeah. It was wild.
That's insane. So you were pretty good at motocross too then? So have you just been naturally good on a bike? So, like, did you start in a bicycle? Like, how did you?
Well, so like with moto, I try to qualify for Loretta's at Tomahawk, which is a close track for me. And
You're already
I
faster
missed
than
it.
Jimmy.
I know.
Jimmy's still
missed
trying to
it.
qualify for Loretta's.
That was
I'm
on
working.
that was on a little 50, but I missed it by 1 position, and I was like, man. But either way, it was like I did that. I did some like Motorama stuff, like indoor arena cross things, and flat track. I just did some national little national things, whatever. And yeah, I just like being on the bike, and that's just my happy space no matter where I'm at. So, I'm probably not as good doing flat track. Like, I haven't done it in so long,
Yeah.
but I think, with my need to, but if I got back into it, I'd really like to.
Yeah. Do you think you would try to like do some cross training in there again? Would that be something? Have you?
Yeah.
Your current program? Are you just on the road race bike permanently right now, or do you do cross training at all, or on a bicycle or anything?
Yeah, like I especially when I was staying out with Josh and Melissa the last few weeks, it was like I was cycling pretty much every day.
Oh,
And
nice. Josh
so-
is gnarly.
Yeah,
So is
definitely.
Melissa.
Definitely pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was mainly working on bikes, but yeah, we went out and there were some windy days. But besides, I mean, like, I did some flat track in the backyard,
Sweet.
just going right
Yeah.
to not go on my left knee, and that was fun. Like, I actually really enjoyed it, and I miss doing that because really on the road race bike, you don't really get to be sideways like that all the time, and like close to people, hitting people all the time. And it was a lot of fun and like messing around with a bunch of people. Like they had Hopper come out and Rory Skinner, who's riding on the American racing team for Moto2 this year, and the Madisons came out, Robbie and his kids.
Awesome.
And so it was cool. It was pretty cool to do that again.
Have you noticed since you got on the bigger bike that it is a little bit more cumbersome? Like you feel like you've had to like focus on, training some certain things a little bit differently than the 400?
Definitely. I mean, like for the R6, 100%. For the R7, a little bit here and there. And I think with everything, like I said, with my training, I feel like I've been taking it more seriously. And I think I've made that transition a little bit easier. But the biggest thing for me is just like separating the way I would ride a 400 from the way I would ride a bigger bike, which you talked about how you had to basically do the opposite from like when you rode the R7, where it was like you had to go from the big bike and kind of go back to the little bike. So I think that
it was insane.
It's kind of funny to think about the fact that you guys
I know that
could have been racing.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? I'm definitely not racing the R7 next year. Could you imagine
deal with her on the
Could you
brakes.
imagine if I had got out brakes? Like, you would put me in retirement. I mean, I'm almost there
Yeah.
now, but
That's funny.
yeah.
So you're from Pennsylvania. You talk about a lot of stuff with your dad. What is your family deal like? What is it? Just you and him that do the racing stuff together, or?
Yeah, with the racing, it's just primarily me and my dad. I see my mom pretty much every week. Not obviously when I've been staying out here for like 3 weeks, but yeah, whenever I'm not racing, I'm with her and then my little sister, my brothers, and yeah, it's pretty good. I'm happy with everything that goes on there, especially like being able to get home. Like this off season, I was able to do a lot more stuff than I have in a while. Like being able to stay out here and then while also like having time to myself and with my mom. Like we went on vacation and I haven't really been able to do that in a while. So it was nice to kind of have that little bit of freedom and yeah, it's
Does she
good.
support your racing 100%?
Oh yeah.
That's
Like
awesome.
she doesn't come to the track because she's like she saw my dad get too many concussions. But yeah, no, she's in full support of it.
And what about your siblings? Are you the only one that rides, or what?
Yeah, so my brother David would never try it. He would never try it. Like he barely drives his car.
That's funny.
So I don't think he would ever get back on a bike. My brother Dylan, he tried it once
You smoked
once
him?
or twice. Well,
Smoked him and he gave it up.
he had crashed it in our driveway and like broke his arm.
Oh my god!
Like going like 2 miles an
What?
hour. But yeah, it was pretty funny. And yeah, that was about it for him. And my sister, she rides her PW every once in a while.
How
but
old is she?
She's 6 now.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, she's more into 4-wheelers though. She actually just rode her PW because my dad went home while I was staying out with Josh and Melissa. And he told me, he's like, yeah, she dropped off on the PW again and she was going pretty good. And then I told her to come pit in and she just pinned it and almost went straight into like the front of our trailer that we had in like the far yard. So she ran off the track, jumped the curb, got completely sideways, and her tires, I guess, just caught traction and she just missed it. But she's a little ripper. She
That's
goes
awesome.
out.
Sounds like it runs in the chicks in your family.
Yeah.
That's super cool. What about school wise? I mean, obviously you're missing school if you're in school to be out here. Are you homeschooled?
I do online school,
Mm-hmm.
which is difficult, but you gotta get through it. And it's the good thing is it's asynchronous, so I can do it whenever I can. And they're really good about like if I need more time, I can get more time on things. And I try to avoid that because especially being that the race season is not super long into the school year. But if I need it, they're really nice about it. And like even with the Today Show thing, like they put out a thing about it, and they're all super supportive. Like when in my middle school, we had a video go out for No Days Off, and it was about me riding, and they had this like Christmas assembly. And during the Christmas assembly, they showed my video and all that kind of stuff. So they're really supportive of it. And it's really cool. Like during the early years, it was a little bit more difficult, but once I started to keep going with it, they were cool with it.
I think we've all been through the school deal.
Yeah,
Being tough.
I went to normal school. I actually didn't do any of the homeschool stuff.
It's tough though, right?
It was tough. I missed like almost 100 days of school the last school year I had, and they like weren't gonna let me graduate, but I was still passing, so like they kind of had to. But there's like, I guess, a law or something that says you have to be there a certain amount. So no, I mean, do you think that have you ever gone to regular school, or were you always homeschooled?
Yeah. Like when I with the assembly thing, like that was my public school.
Okay.
And I did that up until my first year in high school, my freshman year.
So do you like that, or is that kind of like, do you like when they kind of do that, send out stuff?
I think it's cool. Like, and I think it brings more attention to the sport, especially in like younger kids that probably have no idea what it is, or just know motocross, especially where I live, motocross or flat track. But barely kids do that. And our school's pretty big, so it's cool to see that they care about it and they try to do it and push it a little bit. So it's cool to see that. And they actually, my elementary school wanted me to do like a career day thing and wanted me to come in with like my bike. Yeah,
already.
That's crazy.
That's really cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Times have changed,
I don't
man.
think the kids cared. I
you
don't
were a
think people
jock.
realized what I ever did until like now, when like Instagram became more of a thing, and like people
Same.
could actually see it on Instagram. They're like, oh, when did you start racing?
Well, a lot of people think I do moto. Like that's the biggest thing.
Freestyle.
Yeah, something
You do
like that.
backflips.
Yeah, something like that. Like I went into the high school one day because I had to. It was like I either had to pick something up or there's like this breakfast or I don't know, something like that. And I was asking where the cafeteria was because I hadn't actually been in the high school yet. And I was walking with this kid and he was showing me. He was like, "Are you the one that does motocross? Like you ride dirt bikes?" I'm like, "Kind of." I mean, a little bit different, but you're on the right track. So no, it's cool. And hopefully, it gets more of the younger kids into racing too.
Do you feel, like any kind of added pressure because you're younger and you have that kind of people looking at you as kind of a role model type figure, one for like kids, but also for women to kind of get into something that's not really the norm?
I don't feel like it's pressure. I mean, you always have it there. It's something you always kind of think about. But honestly, I don't think it's pressure, and I don't think there's set expectations for me. And I think that's a really cool thing because, obviously you do well and it does good, but if you don't do well, there's not really anything that you have to worry about. And I just, I take it as I just want to keep doing well. And obviously I want to keep motivating, not only younger girls or women in the sport, but I want to keep motivating kids to get into it. And I think that's a big part of it.
I think that's insane is you're 15 and I've heard you talk more about promoting the sport than most people in the sport now. And I think that's pretty cool. And
If
it's
only you heard what Jimmy was promoting when he was 15. It was quite a bit different.
Dude, a sponsor's a sponsor, baby.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I mean, I think like, do you feel like, you're even the KTM experience with the Supercross thing, do you think that's kind of played, like just talking with you, obviously I haven't really spoken to you much before, but I've watched your interviews and you are very like marketable and you speak well. Do you think like those experiences growing up have helped with that? Like even like the kids you're racing against, I think you're like way more well-spoken than any of them.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I've always grown up around adults. So I've kind of always been in that field, and not to say that the adults I'm around are always professional, but I mean, I just kind of grew up in that crowd, and I don't know why, but I think I've always just been pretty good at public speaking. Like my mom hates it. She like freaks out. She had to take like a public speaking class because she went back to college and like she couldn't do it. And she works in like HR at her job, and so she has to like speak sometimes. It's horrible. But yeah, I think I've always just been good at speaking to people and being able to like kind of convey what I want to say to an audience.
That's good. I mean, it took me a long time. I used to be pretty quiet, and I'm still pretty quiet, but I've realized like the value in being able to speak and all that kind of stuff, and it's huge. I mean, I think it'll be that in itself for your career will be huge. So it's really cool. I had a question kind of related more to, what is your expectation for you? I know you said that like you feel like you don't have expectations of you, but what are those of yourself? Like where do you? It's kind of a loaded question because everyone was like, I want to be a world champion one day, but Like where do you see yourself in the relative short term with
Yeah,
your expectations?
Short term, I think, like, especially for this season, it's a new class for me. So I feel like really all the pressure is off of me. And I just want to go out there and do as well as I can. Obviously, for me, I feel like I can get maybe some top fives. If I can be consistently in the top five, I'd be really happy, or in that front group even. Like, that's kind of where I'm aiming, is just to be in that front group consistently each weekend. But as I go forward, you know, I see my future in, you know, growing in the MotoAmerica paddock, and then eventually I'd like to get back over in the World Superbike paddock. That I feel like that's my end goal, is to be back there. Either, you know, if an opportunity comes in the next 2 years to go to like World Supersport 600 or something like that, I'd do it. But also, you know, if I want to go like Garrett Gerloff through MotoAmerica Superbike and then, you know, into World Superbike, I would do that too. But, you know, obviously that's quite a bit away. Ways away right now, so keep going step by step.
No, I mean it's always interesting to hear. Like I feel like when I was younger, I mean everyone, like I said, dreams of getting to a world championship, but for me myself, I struggled to like see myself over there. But I think
it's really hard to kind of envision yourself over there, especially like you don't know what can happen. The sport is so crazy in some ways. And it's just like, even in MotoAmerica Superbike, like seeing myself get to that point, it's difficult, but I'm a really determined person, and I feel like, you know, if I really set my mind to it, I can get there, and I just want to keep going. And no matter what, I want to try to make things happen. And even if that's kind of like a naive way of thinking about it, I just, you know, that's where I want to be, and I'm going to try to do everything I can to get there.
I think that's half the battle is mental. I mean, you're on a good platform as it is now. And I mean, I know for me personally, it was about trying to get to an international. It wasn't always world, or it was just get across, you know, the pond. And I remember it's tough. Like, my deal was crazy. You talk about how crazy it can be, and like just lost a ride, and then somehow next year find myself over there. I think you're on definitely a better path, and you're a lot younger from when I went over. So, but it's pretty cool to see like all the ingredients kind of there, and you've already gotten a taste with the new, the Junior Cup and the R3 and like those things that you can at least get on the tracks. That's got to be the hardest thing is, you know, learning the tracks. I mean, going back, you go to like Portugal or Portimao. I mean, that track is insane.
Yeah.
Like, how hard is it to learn?
It was like, so my full Blue Crew season, technically not full, but pretty much we went to Misano, Donington Park, Assen, Most, and Magny-Cours. That was my first season in 2021. So that was really difficult because I remember going to Most, and that weekend was just absolutely insane.
Most?
Yeah, Autodrome Most. It's in not in Brno, in Czech Republic. And World Superbike goes there still. And actually, one of the coolest tracks I've been to. It's just super cool track.
Never heard of it.
Everyone never really hears of that track, but it's really awesome. And like the fans are actually super cool. But like that weekend was a bit difficult because I've always had, well, not now, but especially that season, I had a lot of issues getting up to speed really quickly, especially in that first free practice session, not knowing the tracks. And really the tracks I was going to in Weir were ones that I knew, and you know, I had competition, but I was able to kind of outride them, and it was just kind of like one of those things. But to go over there and be surrounded by kids who either knew the tracks or could get up to speed really quickly, it was just super intimidating. And so I just remember going to Most and going out in the first free practice session. I think my best free practice was like 19th. Like I finished 19th. It probably was my best free practice session in that year. But yeah, I go out and it was like, I just see this kid Fenton, and he does World Supersport 300 now, and he just goes by me on like the second or third lap, rolling by me, just like breaking as late as possible, throwing the thing in, and I'm just like, I don't understand. Like, he's never been to this track before, and I've never been to this track before, and he's doing this. I just don't understand it. And it was like, it was so crazy. And I remember asking him, I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, he was like, well, I just find the latest brake marker and I just go for it. And if I'm in the grass, then that's how it is. I'm just like, I could never learn like that. That's just not how I'm not going to go out there and, push myself until I'm in the grass, especially
Crazy.
my first session. So it was finding that way of how to learn new tracks that I really needed to work on. And, talking about that weekend still too, our Super Bowl got canceled. So
you're just going into races.
we went into races. Our Super Bowl, we went out, did one lap in the wet, and they said the track was too dangerous, which it wasn't. It really wasn't. I went to Barber, and that was bad.
That was bad.
Barber in the rain was way worse. But they said it was that the track conditions were, too dangerous. So we went off of our free practice times. So I qualified 19th. And first lap, 7 people crashed.
Wow.
From not getting any track time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All that stuff. Everyone's trying to go forward because no one really knows the track yet. You have 30 minutes on the track and now you're racing. And it was crazy. Like, we had the championship leader go down. Like, a bunch of people went down in the first corner because that first corner is super tight. And then some dude, like, I don't remember if he high-sided or low-sided, but the bike kept going, and it went across the track and hit another dude, and then the dude was sliding in front of me, and I had to do a stoppie to not run him over. It was just wild, and yeah, it was stuff like that. So it was a little bit sketchy the first few times, but yeah, with learning the tracks though, I think I really worked on that this year, and I didn't really have to learn as many tracks this past season. But to get up to speed quickly is what really helped me. So I think that's what helped going to Portimao was I knew even if I haven't seen that track or I haven't seen that track in a year or two, like with VIR, I hadn't seen that track in 5 years. Just getting up to speed fast was something I was able to do. So I was really fortunate to be able to get that experience.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but those races, I feel like if you do qualify because the bikes are so even, kind of a two-step question here. One is getting on the bike, are they all the same? Were they all equal?
At the super finale and in the European Cup, they were pretty much all equal. Obviously you could change suspension and you had 2 gearing options.
So you're pretty much
that was
locked.
it. And then with fuel, when I did the whole season, they changed the fuel for the lighter riders had more fuel, heavier riders got less. But in the super finale that didn't happen. So the little dudes were super fast on the straightaways and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Now, do you think that qualifying, because it seems like in the junior, that even Moto3 that we see it all the time, kids qualify 19th and then they're podium.
Yeah.
Is it just because it's a blob of?
Well, it all depends. Some weekends qualifying can make or break you, and it all depends on your first lap. If you can get through people quick and make sure, and if the groups stay together, you're all right. But as soon as that group starts to open, you're screwed. You can't do anything about it.
The draft is huge.
Huge. I was pretty happy with Portimao because we had in the second race I qualified 10th, which I was happy with. I wanted to qualify top 10 and I was happy with that. And I had gotten an okay start, and it was just probably the top 7 started to break, and I was like, man, this is not good. If they open up this gap, we're not gonna be able to pull back. And they pulled about a second and a half, 2 seconds almost, and I was like, man, this is it. I'm not gonna be able to get it. And so I had drafted to the front of the second group that I was in, and there was this one Brazilian kid that was super smart, and he had done the Brazilian championship, and that championship is actually really fast. And I tapped my tail. I'm like, we're going. And the dude listened
Ricky
to
Bobby,
me.
let's go.
Shake and bake, baby. And we pulled it in one lap. I pulled back that second and a half, and it was barely just barely. I barely caught that draft right at the end, and I pulled that group right back up to them. And that barely happens, though. Like, that's super rare. And I was, like, actually pretty stoked about it because I remember coming out of the last corner, I'm like, oh, I'm right back on, let's go. But, yeah, that usually doesn't happen in those classes. Like, once you start to get that gap, it stays that way. And it's all about who messes with who. You know, if that front group is passing, you're going to have probably people that are going to work together to catch back up. Or if your group is messing, you're not going to be able to catch back up.
How would you compare riding in over there with the guys riding over here? Like, when you came back, is the level pretty similar?
I think the level is similar. But honestly, like, some of the guys over there, I feel like are more intelligent race-wise. Just because I feel like they have more experience in some of those championships, and they understand, like, here I've had a few instances where I'm like, okay, we need to, like, keep going forward, and people keep passing. Let's just keep going. And it's here I feel like the biggest thing is, like, everyone wants to get to the front so quickly, and they're really smart about it. They know when to do their moves, and their race IQ is higher, I feel like, in my opinion. But level wise, I think they're all pretty equal in speed.
Who do you think? We asked Joe a similar kind of question, but in that class here, in the 400 class, who's like the person you don't want to be around?
I guess rephrase. Who don't you want behind you going to the last corner, last lap?
I don't know if I can answer that one.
It's gonna cause a rival.
Yeah, I'm gonna cause some issues.
I have my own opinion. There's a few kids I wouldn't want behind me. I know that.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. Like, some people are really smart about it. Like, I know that Cody's super smart, so I know that if he's behind me on the last lap, he's gonna make a pass to get to the front, and he's gonna know when to make it. So maybe I'd say that in a nice way, because I won't say who the people are. I think would be a little bit chaos behind me, but
Should one of them crash?
but it's just like, you know, everyone's out there trying to win, and I get it, and it happens. It's a huge effort that everyone's trying to make, and sometimes, you know, you ride a little bit harder than you probably should, and, you know, it happens. But I think for in that case, I'd say Cody, because I think he's just, out of everyone there, he's one of the guys that I've always looked to as the smartest dude, and that's why I worked with him in qualifying, is because we both knew how to work with each other, what would benefit us both, and not
the
just
old guy and
yeah.
rookie.
Well, it was funny because if they counted my win at Road Atlanta, if they would have counted my win at Road Atlanta, he would have won the first race at the age maximum, and I would have won the second race at the age minimum.
That is so funny.
So
I mean, it makes he should be pretty smart, though. I mean, I think there's something to be said for that with some of the other kids that were in that class. There's some wisdom that could have been absorbed. That's for sure.
Yeah,
like by far the most
and
intense race to watch.
Everyone bashed on him about, you know, being in the class, and honestly, like, my opinion on it is if anything, he elevated the class. He's out there and he's doing the same times as us, if not faster. So if you have a dude that's out there going faster than you, I don't think you have much room to talk, especially considering the fact that you're trying to get faster and you're trying to win a championship. You have a dude that's out there doing the thing you want to do, and you want to be doing that. So that's just, like, my opinion on it, especially at the beginning of the season. Like, a lot of people in the class were like, just
cherry picker.
Yeah, it was just bashing him for the smallest things, and I mean, he was winning. If you want to talk, at least get it done, and he was able to do it. So
yeah, no, I mean, it's tough. I mean, racing in general is really tough. So half of it's just being out there. And I think a lot of people, especially when you're younger, you don't really understand that your dad's paying for your tires still, all that kind of stuff. You know, you don't have to go out there and figure out how to do it yourself. So when you get to a certain point, it's like, sit home on the couch or ride a 400 if you have to. I mean, it is what it is. James went through that a little bit last year. I mean, we even talked about it. It was like, do I really want to, like, at one point I was riding in BSB, like one of the best superbike championships in the world. And now I'm like considering going back to Twins Cup. Like, is this something? But
dude, it was
like,
a serious talk.
Yeah.
Like, you know, is it going to degrade? And then I just find it was like, worst case scenario, I'll get smoked. And best case scenario, I'll elevate the class.
Yeah.
And both things happened.
Yeah. But I think I mean, just being close with James, man, it's been like, was in BSB, and then he came back, and like neither of us really had anything. I was trying to race flat track, which didn't go very well for me. And James was actually really good at
career.
James was really good at flat track, but hadn't raced in a long time. And it was just like, we were at the point where it was just like we had to ride something to be able to keep going,
Yeah.
you know. And I think people forget about that. I think
100%, especially now more than ever. Like the money's, you know, we talk about all the time. The money's drying up, you know, everywhere. And I feel like back in the heyday, it was a lot easier. Everyone's getting paid this and the other. And now you have to be personable, and you have to almost do like the car racing. You've got to bring your own sponsors with you to teams and do your own thing. And
It's hard too, because a lot of these teams have like certain expectations, and it gets super cutthroat. Like if you don't own up to this, you know, even in the first year in some teams, it's like, man, I might not get another ride back, even if it's like like you see it a lot in GP.
it's insane.
Like, you get 1 year on it, and it's your learning year, and then you're off the team because you don't perform in the way that they want to. And I get it sometimes, but at the same time, it's like, you need to understand you're coming into a completely different class, completely different bike. I think it's gets super cutthroat.
To even back that up, if you were to, you know, you got so many kids now that are paying for rides that have to go under the restriction, and it's, in my eyes, I'm like, you're technically the owner. Like it's insane now
a lot of
how
things now are pay.
it's crazy, you know. And I mean, even when we kind of missed it all, we missed all the big money and all that, but it was still hard for us. And I know it's even harder now. So to go back to the kind of the Cody thing, like you'll never hear me say anything about somebody trying. And I mean, he was working out of his mom's rig, and I mean, they were doing it. So it's pretty hard to bash somebody that's putting up their own money to go race and finding sponsors and to try to do it. So
yeah, that's another thing that kind of made me mad, is a lot of people that were saying the things are people that are getting a lot of things that were handed to them, like by their parents or by people that actually had money to back them. And it was frustrating, because he's really trying to get out there, and he's trying to do something that's he still is passionate about and is good at. And especially if you come that far to, like, just like you said, to be on your couch, to come that far, it's just it feels like you lost a lot of time. So
yeah.
I give him a lot of credit for a lot of things, because like even at Virginia, like I always say that is because he didn't have to pick me up out of the air fence. I was actually really freaking out, because when I had crashed, I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe, and it was a really scary thing, because I couldn't move my legs, and I didn't know why. I was just seeing grass. That's all I could see in my helmet. So not being able to move, breathe, or move my legs, I was really starting to freak out, because I'm like, you know, the worst things are running through my head.
100%.
And then I'm just like gasping for air. You know, obviously I have the wind knocked out of me, and he came over, pushed me off the air fence, got me out from under it, and it was crazy. He didn't need to do that, and I took him out. You know, obviously I lost my brakes, and I didn't mean to. I tried to thread the needle between the two of them, but it just didn't work out. But, you know, I took him out, and that could have been a big thing in the championship for him, and he still continued. He helped me, and not a lot of people do that. And even with Max, like at Laguna, you know, I think that was a mix of a couple of things, but either way, he came over and checked on me, and that's the biggest thing, is to have people like that. And I know there are a lot of people that won't do that, and so I give a lot of credit to Cody for that.
That's really cool. Going back to like the sponsor thing, does that, you know, I always think about when I was like your age, if I would have done things like a little bit differently, or maybe not taking things for granted per se. But is it something you think about? Is it something that kind of is a little bit scary for you, kind of hearing the state of where things are at? People are always talking about there's no money. Like, what do you think about that?
Even now, it's a crazy thing, and that's a huge part of the sport. So it's, you know, a lot of the expense for doing MotoAmerica is travel, right? You go across the entire country, it's probably less than going across Europe and doing World Superbike. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. So finding that funding on top of, you know, whatever you need to do, if you need to get tires or fuel, or if you had to pay for a ride, whatever it is, it's just so stressful, because, you know, I don't have a job, so I can't really make it there. And then I know my dad's working hard to try to fund things. And then I know I have sponsors that are trying to help me out as well. And it not only like adds a pressure there, but then you're like, I can't lose these guys, because if I lose these guys, I'm not going to be able to do it. And it's just so expensive that you wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And that's, like I said before, it's, if you want to do well in the sport, you have to have a good ride. And if you don't have,
it's got to be the biggest thing, really.
if you don't have that, you can't really go anywhere right now. I mean, obviously you could be a great rider and do things and do something special, but at the same time, it's like, I see a lot of really good riders that come through that aren't really given that opportunity as well, because they don't have that sort of funding.
Yeah. No,
I mean,
really
now
tough.
even like, watching, maybe because social media that I've seen, I mean, you, like you said, you've been out here for 3 weeks, you've been riding, R6, R7, this, that, and the other. You can only imagine what things that, cost. Like, we're not in a stick and ball sport. We're not in a skateboard sport where it's $100 here and there, it's you start the bike up, it's $100, it's more than that. But, it's interesting.
It's a big part of it. And that's, I try to be so thankful for my sponsors, because they make it happen. Obviously I try to do my work, do my part on the track, but they're the ones that are getting me there. And, I've had a lot of people in the last year and a half really help me out. And I've had a lot of really cool things happen, like with Mission, like doing the cardboard cutouts and things like that. That's something I never thought would happen, especially this early on. So it's been really awesome, and I hope we can keep building on it. And I think with all of that too, it brings more exposure to the sport, especially when you're having companies like Mission, who's, it's a tortilla company. Yeah, you have those kinds of things, and they bring those to stores. And like, we had like 5 in Birmingham, like they were at like Kroger's and Walmart's and things like that. And we saw one at the Walmart, and like we had a bunch of random people come up to me and try to take a picture with me and the cardboard cutout sign.
That's awesome.
And they probably don't know what racing is. They probably have no idea that there's a race going on the next day at a track that's 5 minutes away. But it's cool to just see that. And when you have companies like that are really invested in trying to help not only you, but the sport, it's really cool to see.
I think we all are thankful for people like Mission, especially like coming from the flat track world,
Yep.
Really helped revive that world. And, they're doing such a cool thing, bigger than the sport. And I mean, I wish even when we raced, it was kind of like that. It never really felt like it went mainstream, even though it doesn't feel like MotoAmerica's doing a great job with their social media and stuff. It's definitely bubbled out further when we had, and even just social media and that. And is that something that you take super, like, are you heavy on social media? I've obviously see you got some, nice videos. We see some videos behind you.
No, I've like recently I've been trying to come up with more things to do. Like, I've always kind of wanted to do like a video series, and I know that Melissa's trying to get that thing done for this year. And I really like the way that fans interact with things like that. So with that docuseries, if we're able to do it, I think it'll bring people closer to the sport, because I think a lot of them just see us as more or less machines that just go out there and they race, they do well, whatever, but not as much people. And I think that personal aspect of it is a really cool thing that a lot of people like to see. And I know that people like Josh Heron have tried to do it before, and with everything, it costs money and time. And that's something that, I've wanted to do myself, but you just can't. You have to have people around you to do it.
It costs a lot of money. I mean, when we did it in the year I won my championship in dirt track, and I mean, I know how much it costs, and we did it cheap.
Yeah.
And it's tough. It's a whole tough deal, but I think if you get the right people around you, and it's so crazy to hear like your age, because your generation, like, and to hear like that generation with the phones and all that and the technology, like the way you're talking is so far forward. It's like, it's pretty crazy to hear.
What do you think? I watched the video series, the first one. That was really good. Like, I hope is it Alyssa did it?
Yeah,
she does really good stuff.
She does really cool stuff.
Yeah.
The Bridges media and stuff like that.
What do you think, like, as a younger person? what do you
A
think?
youngster.
Yeah, as a youngster. What do you think obviously like among your friends and whatnot, I know you're not in public school, but what do you think is like missing from our sport compared to other sports that would attract more kids? Like, I'm always kind of curious, like what are the youngsters looking at, you know?
I mean,
TikTok.
it all depends.
Tic Tac thing.
Yeah. It depends on what crowd you're trying to please, you know? Like if you were going for that kind of generation, a lot of it is like you want to see a personal aspect, but at the same time, you know, you want to be funny about it. You kind of have to make everything a little bit like a joke. And, you know, that's what is relevant right now. And that changes all the time, but I think, you know, when you see media and people like Hayden Deegan, for example, he blew up because of this series that they had with him, his family, especially with his dad and all this stuff. And you see him now in Supercross and things like that. And he has all these people backing him and this huge fan base because of what he was able to create with that series. So to have something like that would be so important. I wish more people understood that, because if we had more people that really wanted to push that, that's always something I wanted to do. Like, I wanted to have that, so I could, not only for like me, because I've always wanted to have that kind of series for myself. Like, I've always wanted, you know, to show that aspect, like what really goes on behind the scenes, like from day to day, but also like from a sport perspective. I think by having people like Deegan, they were able to bring a different audience into the sport. And I think even with me, I think I would be able to bring a broader audience into motorcycle, you know, road racing opposed to motocross.
Yeah. Especially even like like you talk about it, like the struggles. I feel like, you know, everyone only sees you on the track and either you win or lose. They just see you there. They don't see like how you got there or the struggles or, you know, being homeschooled and, you know, whatever, missing school and friends and stuff like that. And, you know, those types of things, as even just being a kid, it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, like I listened to a podcast about Deegan and how much he's got 3 camera guys now full time, just following them around the whole thing. But you talk about it, and like the kid has been living in a trailer. Granted, it's a pretty nice trailer. But he's been living in a trailer for like, you know, almost 2 years straight, like essentially. So I'm sure it gets lonely, you know, doing that grind. And I mean, you were hanging out with Ryder D and stuff like that, and you know, to watch that grind, and you know, it's got to be insane. Everyone just sees like Anaheim won, these guys are getting paid good and they're having like this sick lifestyle, and all they do is train and this, that, and the other. So I think that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, this whole thing, the whole podcast thing, that's really why we did it, was I think particularly in motorcycle racing, road racing in the US, there's like not enough people showcasing everyone's personalities. But I think road racing in general, there's a couple other podcasts, but that was our reason behind it. I don't think I ever saw myself doing a podcast.
What do you mean, dude? You're the headline.
Yeah, right. James, maybe he's got the personality for it. Me, not so much. But you know, I think you should definitely, you know, do whatever you can to try to make that happen, because we need somebody. Like, there's got to be an outlier that
we need, like somebody that just goes bigger than the sport. So
that's
could be you.
Kind of the thing. It's like, I feel like there's much more to road racing than a lot of people see, and it can be cool like moto. Like, everyone looks at moto for whips and for these big jumps and things like that. And I think
you've been watching my page.
I think there are cool things. There are cool things like that, even in you know, in road racing. Like, if it's like a stoppie or a wheelie, whatever it is, it's just, I think, and just like the style, I think it's really slick, and a lot of people like that, because a lot of people, I feel like it relates to cars in some ways, in that you have that kind of slick feeling, and it's, you know, I don't know, it's
elegant.
Yeah, and I've talked to people about it before. It's just like, especially with this docuseries, is that I just want to show how we interact with other people at the track, because I think that was the biggest thing for me. Is I loved when, especially with Junior Cup, like, we're beginning of the day and end of the day, so it was like we had this like 6-7 hour period in between our, you know, sessions. So I'd just go out and talk to people, talk to fans, and I love doing that. And, you know, whether it was riders or fans or whatever, I like getting to know people and getting to know how they got into the sport, how, you know, why they came to MotoAmerica. And I think it's important for other people to see that we're not just sitting in our trailers the entire day. We're like trying to talk to other people, and not just for to get people to come back, but also like you want to get to know your crowd. You want to know who you're around, and it's cool to see.
It's insane that you're talking, you do that. It's like, I think there's a bad rap for like, it used to just be, I remember, this funny story is, I mean, I had a Ben Spees poster on my wall, and that's what I wanted to do and go up. And I remember Laguna, man, and I would like, he was walked out of his tent and like blanked me and whatnot. And you just kind of feel like a bit like, man, like, you're the guy like I wanted to be, and it's kind of a bit of a bummer. So it's cool to hear that and to understand, like, to go to, I think more riders need to do that. I feel like more riders just on their scooter to the tent, off their scooter, back to the garage. Like nobody really interacts, like the Colin Edwards or even like Valentino, like, or Mark, and nowadays that seem to be more personable and stuff like that. It's really cool for you to say that, and that you're out talking with the fans and stuff like that. It's only gonna compound.
And of course you're like, you need to be serious. You need to be there. You need to be there when you need to be there, and you need to go through your briefings. And there are times when you can't talk to people, and you can't talk to people. But when I feel like a lot of riders, not necessarily they need to be more humble about things, but I think I feel like they should go out and talk to people more and more often than they do. And I think that right now with the Superbike guys, they're all super great. I think they're doing everything right. But even when you get to larger championships, like a lot of them are, like you said, get to your box, go to the trailer, get your food, go to the trailer, go to the box. They don't really interact as much. And I think that's something that the sport needs, because I think with like moto, if you look at even like Jet Lawrence,
it's huge,
interacting with his fans all the time, and that's why he's so big, and that's why you have more people bringing that kind of aspect to it into the sport. And we just need more people like that to be promoting it and interacting and trying to like partner with these people. Like he did a bunch of stuff with like the donut thing, you do stuff like that, you get more people maybe from that crowd that haven't even heard of it before and try to do it. And like even with brands, like gear brands, like reaching out to other people.
That was cool, that collab.
Yeah, like collaborations with different brands, and like it's just cool to have things like that. So more of that needs to be done. I feel like that's gonna really expand.
You were your teammates with Brandon Pash last year, right?
Yep.
What was it like having a bigger autograph line than him? And he's such an Instagram celebrity,
It was
just stirring the pot a little bit.
No, it was cool because we had a couple of conversations. He's like, man, like I used to be the big rider on the team, and whatever. But no, I just thought it was really funny. Like
Me too.
they're all good, and it is what it is. But I had a lot of fun. I feel like for me, I was just, like I said, I feel like a lot of the reason that I had people come up to me is because I wanted to talk to them. Like I wanted to be there and I wanted to interact with them. And that's something I was always big about. Or like if I brought a helmet to the front, or if I brought like t-shirts, give them out, or like something like that, people that can, take pictures with. It just kind of, attracts more people to it. And, I think he's doing things right too with like merchandise and things like that. So that's going good for him and stuff. But I think just really being involved, that's just a huge part of it.
Do you watch his vlogs and stuff?
I have before. Like
I guess he's kind of like a little bit of he's got an opposite bravado of you. Kind of, he's going one way and
yeah, he because he did it with Ian with filming and stuff, and I had talked to Ian before. Like he did a couple of videos for me, like edits in like 2021 or something like that. But no, I'd see him around the pits, and a lot of the time I'd be gone when he's gone, so we didn't really talk much. But I'd see him every once in a while, like filming in the in the trailer or something like that. And that's something that I thought was cool. Like doing something like that is a really good thing, and he's lucky in the sense that he has a good friend that is willing to do that with him. Of course he's probably being paid, but at the same time it's like he's getting probably a good deal for that.
Getting the homie price,
yeah.
For sure. Kind of a tough one, but there's a lot of people that will see like those long lines and autographs and say, well, it's because she's the only girl here. Like, what does that feel like for you? What do you do you
You'll
think
get
about
it
that?
everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll get it wherever I go. No matter what, I'll always get the same people or whatever saying, you'll never make it because you're a girl, or you'll never be strong enough, or blah 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 blah, and everything. Yeah, I hear it all the time, and I think that just it fuels my fire. You know what I mean? I go out and I like to prove people wrong, and that's kind of how I've looked at it in the last few years. And like it happens, and I think if anything, they should kind of be happy about it, because I feel like I'm bringing a broader audience. Not only is it like a male-dominated sport, but I'm trying to get more girls into it too. And I hear a lot of people talk about, well, girls aren't given an opportunity, or it's the opposite. Girls are given more opportunities, and it's so weird, because I feel like that's a whole different conversation with like women's championships and things like that. But I just feel like it's a big topic that needs to be kind of broken down more.
Yeah.
Like with in my case, with like women's championships, I don't like them at all.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be a thing. I honestly think that if you want girls to be as fast as everyone else, they need to ride with the fastest people, not the fastest girls. That's just how it should be. And if you have, obviously you're going to have fast girls wherever you go, but if you're limiting them to a specific class, even in like Formula 1, like you have Formula W or whatever it is, the W series, they're being limited to that class because no one wants to give them opportunities anywhere else, because they don't race with anyone else. And that's just my take on it. I think they're
not putting a ceiling on it before they're even given a chance to break through it.
They're not given a lack of opportunities growing up. I don't think that's it. I think it's when a lot of parents growing up, they see that it's a male-dominated sport, and they see that. So when they see, they have a girl and they're like, well, I don't know if it's going to be this or that, they might not push their kid to do it more. And you kind of have to just fall into it. And like, even with my dad, he didn't expect me to go this far. Like, he just wanted me to ride bikes, and then I really fell in love with it. And I think it should be more like that, because I don't think we're given less opportunities, and I don't think we're given more opportunities. I think the opportunities are a little bit twisted in a way where we have a path to go to somewhere that's not going to take us all the way. And that's just how I see it. And like, when you have people like Maria Herrera or Anna Carrasco who have been able to pave their own way, that's the path that people should be going for, not going to a women's series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's an amazing.
I think it's well spoken.
Yeah, from your age. What about, there is that side of it where there's women, I think, that aren't like, what I love about you is you're authentic, and you don't play the whole like I'm a chick card. Right? Like, you just go out and beat all the boys. I play it when I want to.
Yeah. I say like when Greg White comes up to me and starts bashing on me, I'll be like, I'm just a little girl. I can't fend for myself. Oh my gosh. I can play it when I want to there. When I want to.
G-Dog, he needs to chill.
See, when I want to play it there, I can. But no, when I'm on the track, I don't care.
Yeah. No, and that's what I love about it, because it's like, no, it has nothing to do with, I'm not getting these sponsors because I'm a girl. I'm getting them because I'm smoking all you guys.
I mean, at some level, you got to win to keep going in any sport, or you've got to be near the front. So I really respect what you just said. That's pretty cool. And, you can only fake it for so long, right?
Yep.
So time's going to run out. So
of course. Yeah, no, I think that's a big thing, especially when people tell me I'm given more opportunities. I mean, you're not given opportunities if you're on the podium. You know what I mean? I'm working for that. I'm not given that.
Yeah.
I feel like the last few years I've really been able to like get myself to those spots to where I am getting opportunities. Maybe not as many, but I'm given some, and that's because of my that's because of my performance. And it's not just because I'm a girl.
Yeah. It just so happens you are a female, and you're marketable, and you can speak well. And you know what I mean? Like, those are all the qualities. It's a package. We always talk about the package, and you have it or you don't.
Yep.
100%. I mean, I think even now more than ever, it's like you don't even have to win hardly anymore if you're marketable and you're well spoken and you're creative and you think a little bit outside the box. You can put a lot of good stuff together. So in your case, it seems like you've got all the pieces, including the podium. So that's that's really good.
It helps a little bit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I'm curious the whole deal with Melissa. You're going to be riding the R7 obviously this year. I'm sure you've talked about it a bunch, but how did that kind of come together? And I know you've brought some of your sponsors that you've had for the last year with you. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so like towards the end of last year, we were kind of, I didn't want to be in Junior Cup anymore. I just kind of, I knew that if I were to do it again, I would have a good chance of winning it, but I wasn't going to really learn anything, and that was the biggest thing. I just want to keep progressing so that when I do get on the bigger bikes, it makes it a lot easier for me to progress. And so I had talked to Melissa a couple years prior, when I was probably around 10 or 11. We had like run the MP13 banner a little bit. Just we hadn't really done anything though. It was just kind of like this outstanding support that was just there if I needed it. And that was around the time that she was riding with, Jamie Ostadio and things like that. But yeah, it was around the end of the season, I started to look for, things in Twins Cup, possibly Super Sport, things like that. And I had talked to her a lot, and I've obviously, towards the end of the season, they had really figured that bike out, and with Corey, had a lot of success. So it was definitely an option, and I had seen her work ethic with it, and I had really thought that was something I wanted to be a part of. And it was just kind of like she had spoken to me about it first. I didn't have to come to her. She kind of came to me, which was really cool. And we had just continued to talk about it, and that was around New Jersey, and then around Barber is where we were like, okay, I think this is what we're going to do for next season. And I knew they had a good package, and going forward, I loved the Yamaha brand, and I knew that, if we can do well in the Yamaha, we can maybe continue a relationship, and, it was a lot of good things lining up, and obviously working with her and Evan and Josh Hayes and, going out there and training and seeing what it takes not only to be, a really fast racer in my series, but when you go to Super Sport or Superbike, what it takes to be there. So it was really cool. And, our first tests have been super positive. Like I continue to tell my dad, I'm like, I wouldn't want it any other way, because just to have someone who really understands what you're saying is good. Because I feel like the last few years, or the last year I should say, with working with Stony Landers and in Junior Cup a little bit, I've been really able to convey what I want from the bike a lot better. And so to have that communication and for her to understand what I'm saying and implement it into the bike immediately is really cool. And I wouldn't want it any other way.
That's awesome. What about, obviously you said Josh. Has Josh kind of helped you out over the course of last year? Or is it more so now that you're working with Melissa, he's helping you out?
Yeah, now that I'm working with Melissa, it's been like that, because my dad actually had raced with him when he was doing Wira. But yeah, I hadn't really talked to Josh much. I know that he helped out, I think, Max Van and maybe a couple other kids in Junior Cup, and obviously Super Sport, Twins maybe, but I hadn't really talked to him, and just his knowledge is awesome. Like it's so cool to have someone to talk to, and they know exactly what they're talking about. And it's even if they don't really understand your bike that well, they know what you're doing and what you can do better. And just having someone like that to show you, like in the data, exactly what he wants from you, and then to be able to do that on track, it's really cool.
So
makes a difference.
You talk about the data. That's an interesting point. Now, I mean, I didn't learn data until I got to until BSB, when I got there in 19, or I don't know. I don't even know when I got there. That's when
like
I
20
ended.
years ago now,
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, you talk about data. Now it's something that's kind of like running the world.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been able to learn data? Was it on your junior? But I don't think it was on there.
It was, but we didn't look at it much. Like it was more or less for like gearing and maybe like front bottoming out, like that kind of stuff. So I didn't personally look at it that much. Like we had talked about it a little bit, just not, a lot. But I kind of knew what I was getting into going into Twins Cup, and I had a good understanding of what I needed, and I had sat in with Stoney and Josh and Rocco and kind of seen what they were doing a little bit. And, obviously when we were out testing, like watching Melissa go through the data with Evan and things like that, I feel like I have a decent understanding of it, even if the numbers are a little bit small for me to read and
Yeah.
all these
squiggles.
Yeah, all these squiggles going around. I feel like I have a decent understanding of it, and even if I don't, like they know exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, just talking with Joe on our last pod, and he was saying that to learn that even late, like that's one of his keys that he would say to a younger person to learn as early as possible, to just start understanding it. I think it's crucial so you start getting a little bit of a picture. I mean,
Well, you have little super bikes with those twins.
it's
so
insane.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, it's definitely insane. So I think it's pretty cool. So
Yeah. It's cool to see what you can get from like something like that on a bike, because growing up, I had never really thought about it, anything like that. And when you see all these bikes with all these crazy things going on, and then you look at it, you're like, oh, I guess I'm really doing that.
yeah,
it kind of puts things like in a different perspective, I guess, and from more of like a analytical sense.
like maybe a clearer picture
Yeah.
helps out.
Yeah.
Definitely helped me a ton understand things a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to go a little bit back to you just turned 15 and you win at the Ridge.
Mm-hmm.
How was that being, the first female to win a MotoAmerica race? And did that, was it just the win? How pumped were you to finally, because it's not real. You technically one didn't win, the other one. It's
well, I always will see. I always see Atlanta as my first win.
Okay.
Like, that to me will always be my first win, and I don't think anything can take that away from me. And with the Ridge, it kind of made it a little bit bittersweet. That's why in my post-race interview, I said my second first win.
Yeah.
So,
I remember
it was,
that Atlanta race. That was insane.
It was crazy circumstances, but I feel like overall it made me a better rider, and that's the biggest thing, is I had to learn from that, and from all the things I had to face last year, from injury to personal things to things on the racetrack, or calls being made. It all made me better. I really do believe that. But yeah, with the Ridge, I felt like that weekend was the smoothest weekend we had. It was my first full season. That would have been my first full season of MotoAmerica. So that's where I debuted the year prior, and it was my birthday on like Friday or Saturday, and just a really good weekend. I enjoyed the weather. I had a lot of fun, and that was the first weekend we started working with Stoney, and I had some issues in race 1, but I was like set on doing it in race 2, and to like basically, I know Gus had like an issue, and either way I was like, I'm gonna go to the line first. I'm gonna do it.
I love it.
But it was a lot of fun. Like I had never, especially in MotoAmerica, been in that spot leading that many laps and consistently putting down laps and dropping pace, and it was a really good weekend. I had a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
That's the best feeling, like when you're just clicking them off, right?
Yeah, because the guy behind you can pass you at any time, but to be able to hold them off the entire race, and like even if they had a little bit more in the end, because I remember that last lap, he kept trying to push me out, and just to be able to pull out that little bit extra, even in the end, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
What would you say was your favorite battle or race this past year? Was it that one?
That was a good race, but I think Barber was really good. I really like Barber race 1. That was one of the clip. That's this clip right here, actually. This pass.
Yeah, this pass is
my
gnarly.
favorite of the
We were all
season.
jumping.
Just chopping the nose, man.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite race, because we were trading passes, the entire race, which I knew was gonna happen, because I was kind of hoping that we would try to break away from some of the other riders, but it was what it was, and I kind of got shuffled back on that last lap, but I stayed calm, and I was like, I know what I can do, and I honestly didn't think I was gonna make it. Like, I came out of the museum corner, and I had actually pulled right up next to Gus, and I was like, well, I have to roll out of it because I'm not going to be able to make the next corner. So I rolled out, and I was like, that's going to ruin my drive out of the chicane. But I was like, I somehow got this killer drive, got right up behind Joe. And actually, if I were to do it again, I would have drafted him for a little bit longer because I was
Just been thinking about it.
literally sandwiched in between both of them. And it looks like I was ahead of him in that clip. I was not. Like, I was behind him. Like, my freaking face was right by his foot peg. And I'm like, if I'm going for it, I might tuck the front, but it'll look super cool. And I tried. So
clip it.
Yeah, I'm going through the front's like, nope. And I'm like just making it past him. And yeah, that was just so wild because I remember the cool-off lap. I'm just like, what? I was so stoked about it. And yeah, that was a really cool race. And because Barber's like a home track to me almost because I've raced there so much. Like my first championship, like Weir championship, was from there, and I just love that track. And I know a lot of people from there, and like a lot of the fans kind of saw me grow up and grow into that because a lot of them go to the Weir at GNF and things like that. So it was really cool, and like the fan interaction there was really awesome. And then it was just a really big weekend for me, and like to end the year off on a really good note. And obviously, like going into the next season, it gave me a lot of confidence, and like to be in the press conference where I have, you know, the two dudes next to me saying they're going to the Twins Cup, and I'm like, yep, I'm going too.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, it was cool. So I was.
Where do you think your like breakthrough was? Like where you just felt like you could race him?
I mean, I was actually really surprised at Road Atlanta because I had talked to JP about it. You know, I was like, I really want to be in the front group, and I want to be there. I want to be there every weekend, and I want to be there. And he's like, you're going to do it. I'm like, I don't know.
I've had one of those talks with JP.
He says that to me all the time. I still don't believe him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I was there that weekend, and it was crazy. And I think, but honestly, where it really clicked for me was after like Road America on. I mean, Road America, you can't really go too much off of that, but I think like my mentality kind of changed there. And then I had to change again after Laguna. Just because of the weekend, I felt like I had to reevaluate the way I was looking at the weekend, because we were kind of put in a really bad spot after that, and it was, you know, obviously at Brainerd, it was a really emotional weekend, and then, you know, going forward we had some issues at Pittsburgh, and overall it was just like it was a big thing all year. We had a lot going on, but like I said, a lot of that made me a better rider.
Now, you talk about that and the mentality. I mean, you get some big sponsors on and stuff like that. It all kind of pressures on. You're 15 years old. I mean, how do you deal with that? All those stresses and whatnot. Is it, you know, we always talk about you got to keep it fun.
Yeah.
Is that something that's big for you, or are you a big mental person, or you just go out and do it? Like,
it's a big mix of a lot of that, honestly.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, like if you're not having fun, there's no point in doing it. I mean, of course you've devoted all this time and you want to keep going because you've devoted all this time, but if you're not having fun, there's really no point in going out there. And I continue to have fun doing it. Like it, especially like moving up classes, and even through like the struggles and having really low lows, I felt like the highs after that were so worth it. It made everything better. So I always look at that. I feel like I have a really positive outlook on things like that, which is really key to a big part of it. But like mentality is a huge deal. Like for me, I mean, it's like I try to like be calm and like fun during the day, and then when I have to do my work, I'm doing my work. That's my work, but I enjoy doing it. And it's like even if I'm talking about serious things on the bike, or if I'm having a tough day and whatever, I'm gonna try to have fun doing it, no matter what.
Have you ever worked with anybody like a mental coach or anything like that before?
No, I actually haven't. I mean, I feel like a lot of it I've worked on myself, and I feel like I've been almost fortunate in a way to have that, because I feel like going forward too, it has really helped me like with guidance. Like you kind of you're always gonna have lows, but like finding out how to deal with them is the biggest issue. And I feel like I've had to do that a couple of times, you know, not only in just racing, but just in like personal things. And it's cool to kind of be involved in a couple of things like that. Even in other sports too, you have those kinds of things, whether it's injury or, you know, performance, things like that. So.
And is your dad heavily involved behind the scenes, or does he kind of let you do your thing when you're on track and whatnot? Is he like a coach, or does he kind of let you do your own deal?
Is he a moto dad?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
No,
well, because like he's not here, so like he's obviously cut the cord some things, and
he's probably at the gym right now.
We were worried he was just gonna be standing there
I
the
know,
whole time,
just
like
looking like.
say that.
No, he's probably pumping some iron right now at the gym. To be honest, no, but no, he does a lot of the like mechanic work, and really like obviously, like I said, I don't have a manager, so it's like he's doing that kind of stuff too, and trying to make sure that all my deals are going well, and making sure that, you know, obviously, like I said, I'm 15, so you know, some deals might not be in my best interest, so he's trying to figure that out as well, and you know, from a business perspective, and so he does that kind of stuff, but like mentality wise and other things, I either deal with that on my own or ask for my mom's help with that.
Okay.
What about, has Josh given you any advice so far that kind of changed things a little bit for you?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of things that he's said even in the short time that I've been with him that have really stuck with me, and it's just a lot of stuff that you think about, especially when you're on the track too, like not just stuff that you think about now, like with this just being, you know, steps into my career. Not, this is, you know, obviously it's important to do well where I'm at, but this won't make or break my future, right? So it's good to think about those things, but also like riding technique things that you don't really think about, you just do them, and, you know, understanding why you're going fast. And I feel like I was able to be better at that, you know, in the past. Like I've been able to kind of understand what my strong suits were, and as well as what I needed to work on or what I needed from the bike, things like that. And that's all stuff that I learned this past season that was really, really important to my, I think, development. But yeah, it's really cool to be around someone like that.
That's cool. Yeah, he we were testing at Buttonwillow yesterday. More or less, he was just telling me to kind of grow up a little bit and go out there and get to work. I was taking my time getting going. He's like, dude, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what do you mean?
He's hard like
I'm
that
like,
too.
It's 42
like,
degrees
just do
out. Yeah, like it's cold out. You want to ride my bike or what? You know. But yeah, no. I mean, I think Josh has got, obviously he's got a lot of history and a lot of knowledge. So hopefully you can soak that up like a sponge. I think you're already starting to. So that's really, really cool. And we're getting pretty deep into this. I had a couple little things. You told us, but for everybody else, how do you pronounce your last name?
Yaakov. Yeah,
Yaakov.
Kayla Yaakov.
Yaakov.
And where does that come from? Like where?
Israel. Yeah.
Israel. Okay.
Yeah, my
Oh.
dad's Israeli. A lot of people think it's Russian. Yeah. I
Me.
Yeah.
Totally me.
Yeah.
Whoa.
But, no.
So is your family from Israel?
My dad's side, yeah. But my dad's side's from like, well, my grandfather's from Israel. My grandmother on my father's side is American, and then on my mom's side, my grandmother's American, and then my grandfather's Puerto Rican.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we got one other one we've been asking everybody.
Well, I want to go one first. Do you have like a dream bike that you would like to ride? Like, do you like have something on the wall like a Repsol Honda, or do you have like a livery bike that you would love?
Before it was like a TZ250.
Okay.
I always wanted to ride one. Now, I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
Like I've been able to ride some pretty cool things, and like even the bikes I'm on now, I'm just having so much fun on them. So it's like kind of hard to be like, what do I want to ride now? But like TZ250 is probably something I still want to ride.
That's interesting. That's like left field for me. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Like
That is
obviously
pretty
you think of like MotoGP bikes
100%,
to like
yeah.
ride, and that would be cool. But at the same time, you're like, you know, It's a MotoGP bike. There's
Have
nothing.
you ever watched anything like on the 500s or the 500 two-strokes or anything?
I mean, I've seen them, but
Yeah.
me on. I wouldn't want to be on one of those. That's too much. That's way too much.
All right, hit it.
You got
Go.
another one?
No, I'm good. That was it.
That was it?
Do it, man. Send it off. Send
All
it
right,
off.
So basically, you're on death row in jail for some reason. We don't know why. Maybe you can give us a reason.
Arson.
Arson?
Whoa,
Arson.
that was quick. That was
Okay,
quick.
I'm sorry.
That was
but
too quick. Holy smokes.
Are you a
I
pyro?
Hey,
No,
did you
I
listen to
had-
the first pod? Was that
No.
you had this ready to go?
She's
No.
already like- she's
No,
like,
because
I know why I'm jail.
no, because I like had this conversation with I think Melissa, not with like Death Row, but what was it?
Melissa probably got pretty dark.
No, actually, we might have been cycling and there was like cops around us or something, and I said I was like, it's probably from me, and it was probably arson. But I'm sorry, that's so like wild.
So,
but
okay. Keep going. All
Are
right.
you a death metal kind of girl too? Like, what do you listen to? Because
like,
now
yeah,
I'm starting to kind of
okay, I
kind of
listen-
curious.
So like my music is pretty broad. Like I have a pretty wide variety, but like I listen to a lot of Korn. Like
Oh, okay. Yep.
like that's
that goes
probably
with arson.
that's probably
Corn.
probably
Wow, I
what
haven't
it is
listened to that
now.
until long.
What's your favorite song?
Ooh, that's a hard one, dude. I could
I could
there's
just see
so
the
many.
hair now.
Right? Just headbang.
Just
Like
headbang.
recently with Korn, it's been like Got the Life, Word Up. Obviously you have like the classic ones are so good.
Do they even make music anymore?
Yeah, they do.
Really?
You know, a lot of it's more newer things. Like they had there was an album called the Path of Totality, and that's like it was like a dubstep album. It's actually really crazy and super wild. But like, yeah, when we went to Buttonwillow, I went to Bakersfield because they're from Bakersfield, and they
Also
had
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, they had like signs and like things there, like plaques, and so I took a picture with a bunch of that stuff. But yeah, no, I listen to a lot of Korn now, and then like, you know, I listen to like things like Red Hot Chili Peppers or Sublime or you know, I know it's like trending, but I listened to it all before it was trending. It was like Nirvana, Soundgarden, STP, and then like I listened to like The Neighborhood, like stuff like that. It's
You love
pretty broad.
music.
I really
You
love
can.
music.
I can tell. Like that.
I'm
just
really
you
into
like
it.
hit the switch.
Yeah,
Have you played an instrument or anything?
yeah, I play guitar. Yeah.
Totally see
I
it.
could see it. Like lead guitar or like bass.
No, I play like acoustic. I play a lot, and I'm getting a new guitar soon, so it should be good. I get an Ibanez.
Well,
so.
when you win a championship, Dunlop will have one for
I
you.
know. Yeah, I've looked at those before. I'm like, man, so close. But no, yeah, I play guitar, and then like when I was in school, like going into school, I played in band. I played the saxophone.
Oh, my sister
a
plays
little-
that. That's
cool.
Yeah,
that's
alto
cool.
saxophone. And for a little bit, I played like keyboard. I wasn't really good at it though. And then like a little bit of ukulele, but I preferred guitar.
What?
Ukulele.
That's
yeah, everyone has
crazy.
to play ukulele. I think when you're that's the recorder.
Yeah, where
Everyone plays the
you're like,
recorder. All right. So if you could be a rock star or a MotoGP rider, which would you pick?
oh, MotoGP rider.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But
okay.
it like I had a conversation with like Dave Schwartz today because they were doing like the Young Guns thing, and it's like, what would you be if you weren't a motorcycle racer? I think like a musician. Like I feel like
What's that song?
which one?
Korn?
He's trying to look it up.
Oh.
Well, I listen like Got the Life. That's you would
Play
know
it.
it.
Oh, I know this song. This is like your jam.
Oh, I listen to this
Is-
one all the time right now.
Have you not listened to this?
You
Is-
gotta listen
would
to
you
Korn.
listen?
Oh,
Would
I
you
listen to this, yeah,
would you listen before your race?
of course. I listen to that all the time.
Dude,
That's why. But like, you probably know "Freak on a Leash." Like, you,
Oh,
you have to know
I
that
don't
one.
know.
That's like their
I like.
their.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
dude.
one,
Yeah, that's
Wow.
so good. Oh,
Would you consider yourself like an old soul or what?
a lot of people say that. Like,
I wonder
whenever
why.
a lot of people say that, and I mean, it's from like the music I listen to, or how I speak, or like what I talk about. You know, what I wear, even like a lot of people have kind of said that, especially like Melissa and Josh, like with staying with them, they've said it a lot. But yeah, I just kind of enjoy that style, and yeah.
That's funny.
Wow.
But
That's
like,
funny.
yeah, with music, I'm super into music. Like I listen to a lot of music. Like this. Oh yeah, like Eminem, even Eminem, Metallica. Those were, I had like phases throughout the year that I was going through, like
She's
stages of.
15. She's had like three stages so far.
Well, it was like
Like, holy
it was
crap.
stages that
How
still,
young were you?
Are you
stages
listening
I
to the
still listen to.
explicit versions of those or the non-explicit?
Yeah, yeah. You can't. I mean, it doesn't make it fun if it's not.
I love it. Wow.
I feel like that's not even a thing anymore though. When I was a kid, it was like, you know, you couldn't buy the CDs. Everything. Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Eminem would just be like silent the
Yeah.
whole song. You couldn't
I
listen
know.
to it.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't exist.
No,
No,
dude.
it was like with each mentality switch, I was like, all right, we're going to a different genre, and then it was just kind of like, all right, I'm fine with where I'm at, and then I just threw everything back into it. But yeah, no,
Some
it's
Beethoven. in the end.
honestly, when I'm doing my schoolwork, that's pretty good because I'm not focusing. Well, I'm not focusing on the lyrics because if I listen to a song I like, I'll get into it. Like I'm into it.
Like karaoke?
Oh yeah,
What?
of course.
How come we never done the karaoke? Don't they do karaoke at MotoAmerica? I've seen. Was it
see,
Max
I was
Flinders
gonna
did it
do
like
it.
2 years ago?
I was
or
gonna
something?
do it at Laguna, and then like I had to do like a media thing. Like I had to do like a YouTube video.
So you're
with this
bummed.
guy. Yeah. I
You'd
was-
rather do like your
Well-
own music video?
I did my own music video. Yeah, but that's something I thought about. Like I'm super into music, and that's if I'm not to say that I'd be like great at it or anything, but it's a good hobby that I really like.
Have you made any songs? Like,
Well, I've written a few things, but like
I wish you'd have known. You could have
Singer,
played it. You could have
songwriter.
debuted it right here. Are you
But
kidding me?
a lot of the stuff that I write, it's hard to put into like playing and singing and playing at the same time is like a completely different thing. It's super hard to do, especially if you're trying to do like complex melodies, not something that's just a few chords. Which not everything needs to be like that, but I kind of would want something like that. I want something a little bit more complex. But yeah.
Okay, well,
That's just a different time.
tangent over. All right,
right,
back to
well,
Death Row
yeah,
Meal.
so
Death Row Meal.
basically,
You're in for arson. All right,
Yeah,
let's go
what-
back.
Arson.
What's your death row meal? What would you if you had one meal left on this earth? What would it be?
And you can have a drink too.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic.
See-
We're not
Non-alcoholic,
there
of course. Yeah.
Man. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'd probably
Whoa.
no, I
Oh my
wouldn't go that far. No. That's a hard question because like I'm tied in between like either like Mexican food or
Mission
steak.
tortilla.
I was 100% waiting for
Mission
that.
tortilla
Or
chips.
steak.
Mission tortilla
Mexican food or
shells.
steak. Yeah.
Mission salsa.
Yeah, mission chips, mission salsa, mission tortillas. Just the tortillas though, with salsa in the
Okay,
tortilla.
sponsor plug, but
Yeah.
if this was the last one, I mean, it could be it, but what would it?
Yeah, well, we can do like a cardboard cutout with me behind bars with like my tortilla chips. No, but I think if I'd probably do like a really nice steak with like asparagus, rice, and then like it would depend on the drink. It would be how I felt that day. It would either be like, something basic like a Sprite, or I'd have like a milkshake, or like Chick-fil-A frosted lemonades, or like
Mm,
peak.
oh, yeah.
So I'd probably get something like that.
Peak. I don't know if I've heard that one yet. Getting old.
I mean, not a lot of people say that.
Yeah,
He's gonna be saying that like every week.
dude,
now.
that's it. That's my new word. Dude, peak. Yo, you didn't hear Kayla peak.
All right, so there we have it. Where can people follow you on all the internet stuff?
Yeah. I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Just all your name or how?
Yeah, a lot of it's just my name, like Kayla_Yaakov or Kayla Yaakov Racing. And
Do you have a YouTube?
I did, but I don't think I uploaded it. Like
Mhm.
I haven't uploaded in
No, I
like
didn't see
5
anything.
years.
They say the YouTube is the
Just
thing.
you got to be YouTube.
Yeah.
Do you have a TikTok?
I do. Yeah.
Do you dancing videos or?
You wouldn't want to see me dance.
Okay.
You would not want to see me dance.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean,
Well,
like I could
me
probably
neither.
do the worm, and that's about it. Like that's the extent of my dancing.
That would probably go viral. That'd be a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. Like I can't do much else from that. But
Well,
All
it's
right,
been
cool.
unreal. I think this was way longer than I thought it was going to be. You're an amazing guest, and the insight you have is incredible. And you're so far forward than the sport itself, in my opinion. I think you're thinking so far ahead, and I think it's super cool. I can't wait to watch you now that I know you like pretty well, and continue to watch
now that
you.
We're best friends.
Now that we're like peak and
Peak buddies.
you know, so I'm super excited, and yeah, thank you so much for coming on. And
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I'm excited. I hope you beat up on these guys again. I don't know who else is in the Twins Cup class this year, but we'll be pulling for you.
I appreciate
and
it.
if you you know, whenever you win your championship, because we know it's coming, we'll bring you back on the pod.
Of course.
We want a
Awesome.
guitar solo though.
Yeah.
Next time with the championship.
We'll get it.
With the
We'll get it in
championship
the
guitar.
Awesome. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
guys.